North Platte, there's no.
I only have 4 accounts.
I can use someone somewhere else.
Yeah, so I've got
long.
Yeah, he just
moved.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
If you meet I mean, he's a great salesperson. He has no experience at all, but I mean, he can talk to anything. So I know he'd be good
What are you
at it.
moving to North Platte for?
He's getting married in February. Married a girl that just like trying to be a CFO out there. So,
Oh, really?
her family's from there, so.
Okay.
But you're
Yeah, so you're the one that's compared to Seattle, I'm sure. Doesn't want to be out there. Yeah, I know. He played at Bellevue College, played baseball out there. I think he's coaching out there now. So.
2016
He's coaching somewhere out there. I think he's coaching like a Legion team, so like an adult.
very low.
Oh, yeah.
So they have their models.
It seems like there's place right around North Platte.
No, that's the problem. That's, you know, I just, for him
So they have
to.
Well,
Would be, would be.
Right, there's not enough people out there that
Right.
out of that location, right?
Yeah.
Pretty typical, drive an hour to your hearing aid like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it kind of social? Is it not just like social?
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of
You know, one day satellite clinics out there. We have a But all together.
So how many offices are you? How many do you have?
So we have 9 full-time.
Yeah.
Go. Flat truckers.
I mean, that's it.
Valentine's.
I'm
Day.
sure.
That's still
What's the office look like? So you're only there once a week, right? Yeah, bring your bag and laptop.
Do they mostly do like, just like and like audio tone?
One day a month, but there's virtually no rent.
Yeah, and it's
You know, you go there. Sometimes it sucks. You go
Sometimes.
Some days you go home with 3 sales.
I've heard of that back east.
4 of them.
Michigan.
I mean, what I've noticed in our organization is the smaller farm towns that do well, right? The people that are exposed to the tractors, the mechanics, the, you know, all the blue collars that have the different wants, and then there's some really, fluid areas, 90-year-olds that have
So once a year, they got
I'd rather work for somebody who's open up, but I think it's more important to hear well when you're not functioning, like, you know, you hear your boss, you know, with phones, everyone needs to hear well, if you're working, help somebody else, it's good. Bellevue, like a wealthy city in Washington,
Great. So how tall is she?
That's impressive.
It was rough last year.
Okay.
This one,
I still have to do some of my patients because of the.
I mean, we don't do the free aid every year, but I mean, it's still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You didn't want to play basketball?
Like, you know, over in Europe, they have
Focus more on schooling and that kind of trying
I don't know. One person here just hearing that they also do.
I'm one of the coaching stuff for the elderly.
Insurance.
Full box.
Oh, yeah.
Full box
Yeah.
insurance.
So it's
Did myself.
so instead of being right beside that.
Not my favorite thing. We don't make sense of
Exactly. No, I don't like it.
I don't like maybe 1 out of 10 of them, get them to buy
Well, like,
outside
this was
of
her career. Now she just.
You get to go down there.
People hire,
Before COVID, I was down there twice a year.
but I just I like this.
When I go down there, we hit our business owners across the island.
Where they can send them a little more. This year, because without our state, we get the best carrying it. It used to be 3,200 that they paid on 27, so it justifies the reason why they don't get the best. Is it all the people if they have a more slowly hearing loss, then that's not going to be fair. That's the best. free to sign, something they should investigate.
We were looking on the map and stuff to get there, and it takes like 3 days to just get there.
Right.
I mean, Sean,
Yeah.
He was here.
it gives me someone else to accept.
Probably even more, they're starting to put stuff out there. Well, it's a private, or they're private, they take 6,800, and they got the best. 3-year,
And he's the
loss
I know.
protection.
It's
So,
not-
yeah, so if you ever have a loan, you guys, private workman's comp, and
Get your plane tickets, like,
Yet,
as you should.
yet he has a water.
He was here.
He's so
yeah, I mean,
It's,
those ones are always,
it's neat.
I want you guys fill out the paperwork every time, scan it, and to the insurance to get money. Build the value, and then
What are we supposed to say?
3 years down the road, say, hey, you just went 2 hours. I can upgrade the basic station all the way to Tyranny. You have to buy the there.
You'll be there? Yeah, it's 118. It's amazing. I love social work. You look great. How was fishing?
Are you doing consulting or you own it and you're probably here?
Yeah, I'm like, are you there? She's like, no. I just,
You know, it all depends.
Managed and that one.
You know what I want? I want to get involved.
And he goes, and that she never.
Next
So
time.
you should be
All right, guys.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
No,
So I don't see her much, right? You're on TV.
Alright, what's the process here again?
Always
I
and they'll see.
I get to see the good side.
just hate killing the fish. It's like a thing. I get scared. I look into their little fish eyes.
You adults, I'll give you adults. Tell us a story about this. They didn't you.
I should have.
Okay, I'll go figure that out, Aaron.
You've had enough.
You can't say I've been Oklahoma before.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
Football country.
That's right. No, I did not.
So the reason why this is important to us is the self-reflection aspect of it. This is where you can start to understand your weak points. And you can even dive deeper into this as far as how good am I handling each of these objections as well. Right? And sometimes we're better at handling one objection than we are at another. And we need to get better at doing so. For a lot of people, they are better at closing new patients than current patients. So this is an area of focus. Now I know this is a weak spot. How am I getting better? Right? And if you can take the time to be self-aware and analyze where you're weak at, then we can get better and start working on being better. And that's kind of the growth aspect that if you look at our numbers, and Aaron and I were just talking about this over time, you can actually see that we just continue to keep getting better because we're constantly working on it and having conversations. Man, this was frustrating. This happened. Well, what did you do? How did you respond? Well, what did you say? How did they respond? What was their body language like? You know, did they ask any more questions? Yeah, they did. Well, this is the question. Well, how did you respond to that? You know, what if you do it this way next time? You know, I didn't try that. And that's, again, a part of being coachable, right? And saying, hey, you know, humbling ourselves and saying, hey, I don't know everything. This is what I tried. And we have to kind of put our ego aside, especially in open houses, because the better you get, the bigger our ego gets, and the more we think that we know everything and we did everything the right way. But that's where, if we can be humble, we can continue to keep getting better and better. So hopefully you guys were honest in your answers, and we aren't overinflating some of those. But you can also see areas that you can improve upon. Hey, I need to work on this. That being said, for us that are training, we are going to have one-on-one conversations later with you. I'd love to hear from you guys. What are the things that you would like to work on the most at this event? If you could walk away with 1, 2, or 3 things, what are those things that you would like to work on or improve upon? In yours, you have pull out your drawer. Dry erase. Green.
That used
That little one.
to be the.
Keep up on the whiteboard, huh?
Now keep the digital pen away from Jared.
Yeah. I'm locked out. Okay, Nate,
That's me.
that is you. What are some things that you want to walk away with?
I'd like to be a better manager of my office and have better leadership skills.
Okay. Spence?
Increase sales for new and existing upgrades.
Is that even possible for you?
I would say, I want to learn how you guys explain the, probably, when you, I can't think of the name. Audiogram,
Audiogram,
and then you do you drop the prices in there.
Price conditioning.
Price conditioning.
Price conditioning, explaining about how the brain works, building that into how you go to the book and you explain all that so that.
Okay, just the process?
So we're good.
So the presentation aspect.
Okay. Riley, what's 1, 2, 3 things that you're wanting at the end of the week to say, I'd really like to get better at this?
Current patients. Maybe scheduling.
For open houses or for,
Yeah, for open houses.
and when you say scheduling, do you mean how to,
Like your mindset when you look at a schedule and you're like, hey, should I talk to Riley about these patients, do these over there, what's worked better?
adjusting the schedule?
Yeah. I know we do that a little bit every time we do open houses, but I just want to see your guys' mindset when you look at something.
Perfect.
How you look at it.
All right.
Steve, and what I'm trying to do is go back with a way to energize our office. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does have something to do with one of y'all coming back with me. And meaning that, have more open houses, let third party help teach our people where they'll be more receptive to that than coming from myself or Heather, where they might have a little more of a closed mind to think that we're suddenly these experts. But we've never really had bad open houses that I can recall. Mm-hmm. So I don't see why, we would be so nervous about having more of them, especially if, some of this good thoughts are all being brought from the specialists and we prep our people to be open-minded and receptive. We'd probably grow the business tremendously, I'm guessing on that. And the first fellow over here that had said, to manage the office better, I think that could be a union of your all's visits as well as what we'll learn from it as well,
Yeah, great.
So my hope is to be able to develop an internal open house program for our franchise that's successful. We have tried it, but seeing the structure and how you guys are handling it and trying to apply that to our own franchise.
Okay.
And then also overcoming objections with current patients.
Okay, great. Next.
Something I'd like to take away is an explanation of the difference between our models for the hearing aids. For example, how to up someone from a 3 to a 4, or the difference between a 4 and 5, being that extra price. Another thing, we bought off a lot of people, current patients. I've done a lot of new sales, but I've not done too many current trade-in, trade-ups.
Gonna be a little harder in a new office, but yeah.
Well, he is at the 3-year mark.
That's
right.
true.
It's time.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Well, it's starting to happen. I mean, I have no neighbors.
I would agree in upselling and a lot of those things, but also overcoming financial objectives.
I think it's been talked about before, but getting the office prepped and ready for it, and building that anticipation, and also would like to hear yours' thoughts on a lot of my offices. I have a lot of long tenured HCPs, and when we've done this in the past, it's met with mixed results, even though it's a successful open house. Just how you
From both consultant and PCCs?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And developing an internal closer within our business.
Okay.
Definitely, I want to learn more about using the circle of understanding more when doing current patients to try to upgrade them. Best practices for that. That's kind of the main thing I feel like I really want to hit home. But and also just scheduling for open house, how to navigate different areas as far as we're going different places, those kind of things. And then of course objections, just all the different ways that we handle different objections for different ones. I want to get a good, huge, wide open thing on that. So lots of notes.
Yeah. Right.
For me, it's more of a holistic view of everything that you do. Obviously, I will never sit in a seat and sell, but to help individuals, franchisees develop their programs that up to this point, I haven't been able to diagnose what's wrong outside of little things. To me, seeing it all and hearing you guys talk about it is going to help me have more of an arsenal to go and help people who are struggling with their own internal open house programs.
Perfect. All right, great.
One quick thing I just want to add, you mentioned take one of us home with you. We are always available. We'll take our contact information.
But it is, it's all what we're bringing into this. I mean, I could tell you probably 20 different offices where we either had a change of a mindset where the consultant woke up and said, oh my gosh, I just decided it's up to me, and it's my decision to make this office a success. And then their results went from 400 to 1 million for the next 4 or 5 years consistently. We've had other people where we just changed a consultant that didn't have those preconceived ideas about what that office is going to do. But I will tell you from open house perspectives, you have the same ability when you go to open houses, that you have that same preconceived idea as to what office is going to be successful. That's one of the reasons why we kind of like bringing in new people to do open houses, because they don't have those preconceived ideas of like, hey, this office, hasn't really done well. It's like, hey, I'm competitive and I got the drive. I'm going to make this a success. But then the longer we do something, we start to see those habits and we fall into it as well. That's why a lot of times we like going to offices that haven't performed well, so that we can then, again, set the bar here and we can say, hey, I know you thought that office wasn't successful, but look at what we can do in 1 week. Right? In a year, you did 400,000. We just did a quarter of that in literally 1 week. What's possible the rest of the year if you approach it with that same attitude and way of going about it? So it really is just a change of mindset. So for, again, those business owners in this, we typically do 2,000 marketing direct mail pieces a day. So this is typically what we do, and I am interested in talking to you guys as well. If you are filling 20 HAE appointments in a day, then we'll talk later because we want to make that money on that. But typically we're doing 2,000 a day. So if we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to do 6,000. We're doing Monday to Friday, it's going to be 10,000. And again, we can talk about direct mail pieces later. Newspapers, we'll do them the week before, the weekend, and then during the week. Newspapers are a lot easier to fill and quicker. Direct mail pieces, you can't just, call the direct mail company and say, hey, get it out tomorrow. You can't do that. Whereas with newspapers, you usually 2 days in advance can set something and then get something running 2 days later. So we can, if the schedule, if we're looking at it and we're monitoring it on an ongoing basis, Steve sends out an email sometimes 3-4 times a day. This is where your schedule's at. This is how many appointments were created in the past 2 hours. And we can see how it's changed and then say, hey, I see this is many phone calls are happening from Invoca, which is how we track our phone calls. And we had 15 phone calls, yet we have 2 appointments. Talk to me, what's going on? And we can be better about coaching them and not waiting until the very last minute to say, oh, what happened? Well, let me go back retroactively and see what we could have done different. It's, hey, we're on top of it right now saying, hey, this is how many phone calls are coming in. Let's get on this. We also have telemarketing who are making outbound phone calls. And we have our own little telemarketing team here. We used to hire them out, right? We had Teleconcepts, and we would typically do 40 hours of outbound phone calls. Teleconcepts is no longer doing it, so we're doing it here. But we also have the consultant and the PCC, the best offices that consistently perform well. You have everything tapping in because we don't know what's going to fill the schedule. Sometimes the direct mail falls flat on its face and the newspaper picks it up. Sometimes the direct mail is what brings it in. Sometimes both of those fall flat and we're relying mainly on what the PCC and consultant and telemarketing were able to create. So you just don't know, but our goal is to try to tap into each of those because we just don't know what's going to bring in the appointment. So the sooner that you can let your office staff know, right, then that's going to be better. But this is typically how we do our marketing. So when we're pre-planning to set it up for success, we want to let them know the sooner the better, right?
I was just going to say that another thing that I've done in the past too is that anybody that was been on the fence or we didn't sell an open house before, I've made the phone calls and got them to the next open house and closed them then.
And again, sometimes they just need to hear it from a second person, right? And that's kind of more timing of what's going on. So again, these individuals here are consultants within our company, and you guys can kind of pick their brain. We are trying to let them know as soon as we know when the next open house is. And Aaron's going to talk to you more about that. But this is just from a pre-planning standpoint on how we can successfully try to get ready. What we tend to try to bring is our own tools as well. I like bringing my own pair demos, and I would recommend doing that. I know all of our open house people do, because there's times where this person's spouse didn't come and they cannot make a decision, and we are going to talk about ways of handling that objection, but sometimes we're going to send home that pair of demos. And we don't have in-house stock that we leave in the office. We don't have 10 pair of stock we have in the office, so we just got demos. And then we'll order it, it gets there in 2 to 3 days, and that's kind of how we do it. So each of our store has 2 demos of the newest technology. So that means they also have 2 of the last generation as well. So they usually will have 2 that we can demo, 1 in each office. And then if they need, we can go to the 5500s because they have demos of those. And if we need to send a pair home, we can send a pair home. But it is nice to have that pair of demos, your own programming equipment. Making sure that when I talk to the office that they have their demos back. It is frustrating when you go into an open house and that consultant, all of their demos are out on the office, and then you get there and they're like, well, I was hoping that you were going to be bringing demos. And it's nice to see that they have their own demos. Same thing with receivers. Again, frustrating if you go into an open house and they don't have different size receivers, tips, lengths. And you're like, well, this person needs, a 3P, and all you have is a 0 and a 1P. So I have to put this in, and it's dangling over their ear, and now they're asking, what does it look like? And you're like, let's talk around it. Ignore the looks right now. Yeah. Ignore the looks.
Now,
So,
do you guys send out packets,
nope.
telling them what they need to have?
So we have a system, we have our PCC manager who reaches out to them a month in advance and says, your open house is coming a month from now, 2 weeks from now, and then they're also calling 2 weeks ahead of time and then a week ahead of time just saying, hey, how's the schedule looking, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so, all right, good.
And again, this is stuff that Aaron's going to dive into this deeper as well. But just making sure that they have the supplies making sure that they have simple things like ink and paper. All right, and I know that the people who've done open houses have gotten into the store and they've run out of ink, and you're like, you didn't think to get some extra ink that we'd be printing some extra copies of things, price sheets, audiograms, contracts. No, okay. Well, let's run to the store, and that is something that, again, we have to have that good attitude, and okay, let's overcome. PCC, run to the store real quick and grab some ink, purchase it, keep the receipt, use a bento card, however you got to do it, but go get it, and then let's get back and get to work. But again, just giving them a heads up on that stuff, and brochures, that also is a part of it. When you sign a contract, you don't want to just give them a paper of like, here's $7,000-8,000. We'll see you next week. Let's at least have something professional to put it in. That one that says, congratulations on, getting better hearing, or that 8.5 by 11 packet. Those are things that are nice to see and professional. Passwords for financing. I look at Riley because he's the one I'm like, every time I'm like, where the hell's the password? He's like, I don't know, my PCC has it. I'm like, get your damn password.
Little things like this can set you back so much in time.
And especially if you are in that moment where you have somebody waiting in the lobby, you have a patient in the next room, you decided to pull the husband into the opportunity, so you're already 20 minutes behind, and now they didn't get approved for Healthy Plan, which is one of, obviously, for you guys to know that that's one of the financing. We also use Ally financing, so then it's like, hey, what's your login and password?
Or it's saved on the computer and they never used it and the computer's down.
Yeah.
And you're like,
So that is where, again, as the open house person, you can get your own login. But if you're doing open houses, it is good to make sure that they have that information and their store number for Healthy Plan. So if you make that phone call to say, hey, we need to get their credit increased. Well, what's the store number? I don't know. Just, can you make this happen? And sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to do that. So passwords, studies, magazine, tech brochure, price sheets, anatomy, audiogram. Again, typically the office will have them. A lot of times I'm just bringing it just to start. I have at least the magazine of the Consumer's Guide. If you guys don't know what that is, we'll go over that a little bit later. And then I usually am bringing a few of my own price sheets. If not, we'll just print them that morning. And then the anatomy and the audiogram. So those are the things that none of us really care at this point what documents they print. We used to be more finicky about it, and each store has their own way of doing things. And so, again, as our way of evolving, we want to adjust and change. If you want to use the paperwork that Miracle Ear created where it says, print intake paperwork, that's fine. We're not trying to change too many things, but we can work and adjust in each office a little bit differently. So for us now at this point, we don't really care too much. We're not sending, hey, print our documents, print this, print that. Not as big of a deal. All right, so this is my last slide, and I'm going to hand it over to Aaron. I guess that was me talking about it. As I said, Aaron's going to be talking about this. So a month in advance, we're going to get them excited, and we do that through that email. And this is where, depending on the size of your business and how many stores you have, depending on the management, you're going to change who's doing that. We like reaching out. For the open house people that have worked with people for a long time, it's not as necessary because it's like, how I work, what we're going to be doing, that this is the schedule system. So a month in advance, I'm typically not reaching out to Riley since I've worked with them, 10 different times. But if it's somebody that I haven't worked with multiple times, we're calling to figure out what's the office setup like. Are there 2 offices? And I'm trying to find that out. If there's not a closing room, what are some other ways that we can handle that? So you're going to go into an open house, and you call and you find out they have 1 office. Outside of the U2, what are some things that you could do to be creative?
With one single room.
They got 1 room.
I think talking about the timing of when, we can't be exact on a time, but kind of prepping the consultant, letting them know how long you want them to spend on doing the rapport building, talking about the audiogram, how deep you want to go, and leave some things for after we get the results, and just kind of knowing when to high five and tag team it. So
Okay, so talking about the timing, timing is going to be much more critical if you don't have a second office. Now, what are some other creative ways of doing it? What if they don't have a second office that you know of? What are some other creative ideas outside of timing?
Using the lobby?
There you go. What else? What else could you use?
The lab, stock room, whatever you get in, whatever options you have.
Car side, parking lot. We've done that.
Rent a U-Haul truck.
We rented an RV for the week. But this is where getting creative and thinking on your toes helps. We've used the lab, we've used break rooms, we've used all kinds of different things. So sometimes it's talking to them and being creative of like, hey, what else is available? Oh, is there another? It's an office complex. Is there another office in there that you can rent for the week?
A neighboring business.
A neighboring business. We've done that. So it's a lot of times thinking outside the box, because you are going to want that secondary room. Just because you're going to have patients that have more questions, it's just going to go on and.
Probably put a little more focus on making sure the schedule's more rock solid to make sure you're not double booked and you're having people show up that have taken checks that haven't got a hold of or with complaints, and just making sure that you have time for each person.
Set expectations for your incoming patients so they already have their paperwork ready to go, so they're not going to be delayed, you can't fall behind schedule, all those things.
Yep. And I don't know if you heard that, but having all of your I's dotted and your T's crossed, so paperwork's already printed. You're not like, again, timing is everything if you only have one office. And we've done open houses where they don't have any other option, where it literally is that one office and that one office only, and your timing has to be, so we have to cut out certain things, right? Hey, don't spend as much time on building rapport, and you're not going to do certain things, but we have to find ways of condensing things. Just put the demos in, and then I might have to cut things out too. And then I will print contract, and we will go out front. I'll set an appointment on my phone. You're going to have paperwork already pre-printed that you're going to hand them in the lobby. I've had one in Washington where there's no other secondary office, and I tell the PCC to leave, go to another office. So that was one of the ways that I could have been, I was creative in one of those situations. So I sent her to another office, and then I closed at the PCC desk. She still answered phones. We had them transferred to another office so she could still do confirmation calls and she could still answer the phones. But if they were taking too long and I needed to move on, we just went to the lobby and I pulled up the chairs from the lobby to the PCC desk and went over everything there. So there's always ways of being creative.
Yeah, like Sandpoint's only has one office. Sometimes we'll do things where it's say like, okay, if we're still at this time, then I'm going to take these people and go into the conference room or whatnot and roll forward. Or I call it being the entertainer. You got to sit there and talk to them, keep them going, talk about as many fishing stories as you got, and keep them going. What he's working, try to keep that idea of time where it doesn't seem like they're sitting there that long. Keep them working. So.
And some of this, again, is just being creative and working together, where I'm saying, hey, let me know if you're the PCC, let me know if you're the consultant, if we're getting too far behind, and we can make an adjustment. So it's constantly changing, but being willing to say, hey, Jared, do you mind if I steal you real quick? Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we shut the door. Hey, patient in the lobby's getting really antsy about time. They have a 1 o'clock appointment. They got to get out of here. So where are you at in the process? Okay, let's do this. And we make an adjustment. Okay, I got demos in their ears right now. Let's send them to the lobby and I'll take this person so we can get this person rolling, and just making adjustments so we can maximize the schedule. Because that's one thing that sometimes as open house people, we get kind of in that sense of prejudging of saying like, oh, this one's a good opportunity. that one's not, I saw when she walked in, and sometimes we make the wrong judgment, but sometimes we have to make judgments saying, hey, this person, I looked in the notes, they haven't been approved for financing. So there's no sense in me rushing this one to get to this one to bring in the person who 2 months ago came in and wasn't approved for financing. So let's do this. When you walk out there, let's make this adjustment. So you and the longer you get at doing this, the better you get at making those adjustments.
You're double booked right now, but in an hour from now, you have an opening, a gap. So, hey, why don't you guys take these real quick? Why don't you go out to lunch? Enjoy them. Go ahead and take it for a test spin. Come back at 1, and we'll finish the conversation and do that.
Yep. Just being creative. So that's one of the first things that we try to do, especially if I'm the closer and I haven't worked with this person. I'm calling to get them excited. And I have that upbeat attitude. And again, I'm saying I'm so excited to be working with you. And, at any point, I'm willing to stay late if you want. If you want to do late appointments, early appointments, I'm all yours. And, if you got things that you want to work on, just let me know and we can work through those things. And then finding out if they have that second closing room, what the dynamics of the office are, just talking to them about their feel for the industry just a little bit and getting an idea of what I'm walking into. So then when I can go in, I can be the best that I can be. I'm also looking at their schedule, not just that week, but also the following week. We'll talk about the schedule, expectations, roles, timing, things of that. Monday morning, we come in and same thing. Upbeat attitude, I'm bringing in energy, I'm bringing in that excitement, and I'm getting the PCC and consultant excited about the week. I'm one that likes to give high fives, just because I feel like it's just an energy transference of, great job, and most of the time they don't get high fives. Now you have some people a little bit worried about high fives, so you gotta be a little bit more careful with certain people. Air five.
Just don't give me a high five I can't reach.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about the roles and who's doing what, the timing. Again, if we have one office, the timing is critical. Making sure if it is that one office, okay, we got it. Let's just pre-print all of the patient documents so you don't have to come into the office if this is where the printer's at, right? We need to have everything solidified. I have audiograms. I have everything that I need. Everything's pre-printed. This is what you're going to say. And in talking to them, again, Curtis will get into this with the process a little bit more, but how to handle walk-ins, other opportunities, TWAs, how can we maximize this? If you see somebody, they walk in and they're like, hey, I just got this advertisement or I saw this in the newspaper, don't send them out if we don't have to, unless it's absolutely critical. The likelihood of them showing back up, that's one of the most frustrating things. Someone walks in with a newspaper, we schedule them for the next day, they didn't show up.
They're ready to go when they walk into
yeah, we'll squeeze you in. You might have to wait a little bit, but we'll squeeze you in. Are you okay waiting a little bit? Yeah, that's fine. We got some paperwork for you to fill out anyways, and we can just chat with them, entertain them, but they're there. All right, they walked in on, their own terms to get help and to see what's going on. So I don't want that great opportunity to walk out unless there's no other option.
Well, and one of the biggest things I think to keep in mind throughout all this, no matter what happens, walk in, TWA, one office, keep your cool. If you start getting flustered, what's going to happen to the office? They're all going to be flustered too. And the thing is, no matter what happens, we got this. And a lot of the times if you're double booked on one office or you name it, sometimes the universe has its way of working things out. You're way behind and you're at 3:30 and 3 o'clock hasn't even shown up yet, they're late. And that's why communication is important, right? You step out, you're like, oh, the 3's not here yet, we're trying to get hold of them, but we've got extra time. Or you've got a no-show in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you catch up because you had that no-show. So at the end of the day, don't freak out.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things is always keep your cool.
One of the most powerful things that I found works amazing is if you are falling behind and your lobby's getting full, I will excuse myself real quickly, go out to the front lobby and say, hi guys, my name's Aaron. I just want you to know that my philosophy is love the one you're with and then be worth the wait. So I promise you I'll be worth the wait. Would you like some more coffee or anything? And then go back in. They see that, they're put at ease, we haven't forgotten them, everything goes back into order.
Well, they're walking out, you're saying, thanks so much, we're going to work great together. The other patient sees that, there's benefits to running behind too.
Yeah.
Keeping it cool though is critical. When we don't, we start trying to close faster, talk faster, and when we do that, then the person feels like we are trying to sell them, right? And when we're talking faster and going through things faster, they feel like we're trying to just close them and get on to the next person, that we're not the most important people to them. We want them, no matter if there's just chaos going around you, right? I want you to feel like you're the only thing in my world that's important to me right now, that I'm all about this relationship. And so again, stepping out, like Aaron said, that's a great one-liner, and those are those things that I'm hoping that you guys take away from this, those little one-liners that you could pull out. But it is about staying calm no matter what happens, handling it, adjusting, making those changes in a calm manner, keeping the energy and atmosphere not like, okay. And now the people in the lobby see you doing this, and it's like, these guys don't know what they're doing. They're helter-skelter. I feel like this is going to be another 30 minutes. How long is it going to be? They're just rushing, okay, we'll see you later. Talk to you later, next person. And now I sit down and say, okay. So this is your hearing loss. Okay, I'm going to skip over some of these things. Let's go over the different options and prices. And that person's like, whoa, like I'm not getting the red carpet rolled out. Well, right? You're rushing me through it.
We're all the right age to remember this. The Matchbox 20 commercials, remember the old, where they have the auctioneer talking super fast? I've seen situations where people get flustered and what happens? They talk faster and faster and faster. These people have a hearing loss. What happens when we talk fast? They realize you're trying to rush. They're wise. They're old. They understand what you're doing. But also, they don't hear a damn thing you're saying. They haven't heard for 20 years. And so it does nobody any good. You're wasting that appointment.
Yep. I like asking you to step out for a minute, borrow you, and then come up with a new game plan. And the last open house, we had 4 people come in. Or we had 4 different things going on. We just went in the lab and came up with a game plan and made it all work.
And that is something that's critical from your open house people, is being flexible and willing to have that change, right? And again, we had someone show up early. We had somebody that we brought in a spouse, and now we got 4 appointments that are all in the office, that it's like, what do we do, right? And that's where that, okay.
I think it's important to realize too that we should understate the time to wait. We're going to be right where y'all are. We're going to just be a few minutes and we're going to have you right in. Because when we were last week noticing that we were on a trip and we were like waiting for a table, and all of a sudden the girl says it's going to be an hour and 20 minutes. But that just is a killer. We walked off because why would we not? But the next restaurant said, well, I think we're going to have you in just a jiffy, just a minute, just make yourself comfortable. And that made all the difference in the world. And then it turned out it was quicker anyway, which is probably 9 times out of 10, my guess is the case.
Yeah. I agree. How you set that up verbiage wise, it shouldn't be a huge drink while you're waiting. 30, 45 minutes. Yeah, maybe get some coffee while you wait. Something that can keep them entertained. But yeah, you don't want to throw away opportunities. Yeah, you want to keep the hook on.
Fishing stories, no.
Yeah, you can tell fishing story depending on where you're at. So that Monday morning is critical of setting the tempo for the week. And when we walk in, we set the tempo. And our energy level, our excitement, our positivity, that's palpable. You can feel that, right? When you walk in, if I walked in, I'm like, happy Monday. All right, what's the schedule look like? It's a totally different feeling than, hey, what's up, Riley? How you doing? Great to see you, man. So let's talk about this. What's the schedule look like? Right? You can just feel the difference in the energy. Oh man, it's gonna be a fantastic week. And okay, these ones aren't confirmed. Okay, Janet, come here. Let's sit down. Let's have a little game plan real quick. Okay, so we're gonna look at the files. Do you have the files pulled? No? Okay. Could you grab the files real quick? And then after you grab the files, we're gonna be getting ready for today. Tell me what you know about these patients. Because again, you're going to get information from the PCC that the consultant doesn't know. They set the appointments a lot of times. So I want that intel from them as well. And when you get them bought into the open houses and the team effort, then they want the open houses to be more successful. And you're high-fiving them, and a lot of us open house people are cutting them off little spiffs at the end of the week for filling the open house. So they're even happier about getting, $100, $200 cash, that they weren't expecting. So it's like, oh wow, that's awesome. I'm so happy that I got an extra $100, $200. I wasn't expecting that. And they're like, hey, come back. Right? And that was, just the case. And she was like,
appreciate that.
Yeah, she did. Now this was something that we didn't have this open house plan, and we'll talk about adjustments, but she filled a schedule, last minute. We go over there, we did $40,000, $50,000 in sales that day. And at the end of the day, she stayed late, and I told her, hey, it's 5 o'clock, you can go home, it's Friday. And she's like, no, I want to stay until this thing's over. And we ended up getting that last person, and I took out all the cash I had on, so it was like $150 or something like that. And I gave it to her. She's like, no, you don't have to do that. I'm like, you made this possible, right? And as open house people, we're getting, half of their commission. So, $50,000 a day, it's $4,500 in our pockets. Why can't we give them $100?
That's money you love to spend, as opposed to them begrudgingly getting their paycheck and grumbling about it.
Exactly. And it's something unexpected. And me saying, thank you so much for working hard to fill this. And her comment was, you should come back more often. And that one little comment of you should come back more often, that means the next open house she's willing to work harder to fill that week, right? And so it is just nice to take care of the PCCs, because a lot of times the PCCs aren't getting compensated nearly as it should be, in a sense, as much as the consultants actually closing the sales. But that unexpected little gift they love giving.
Well,
right?
the next time you go back, your schedule's full.
Exactly. Right?
It has cascade effects.
Yep. So those are just some of the benefits. But yeah, I'm sitting down Monday morning and I'm saying, hey, let's have a team huddle. As the open house person, what do you know about these patients? And I'm paying attention to the PCC. I brought her into this as well, because again, they're going to know stuff about it. Let's get the files. And I'm pulling those files and looking at those, because I'm going to see things in it. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking at how they paid. I'm looking at, did they finance, how they financed? Okay, they did 12 months. So then in my pitch at the end, I'll say, did you just want to do 12 months like you did last time? Oh, I did 12 months last time. Yeah, I'll just do the 12 months again. Oh, perfect. Okay, what color did you want? Did you want the same color? Did you want to mix it up? Did you want polka dots, striped? So this is really critical, getting their buy-in. But then again, making those adjustments. Hey, we have 3 people today that are not confirmed. Give them a quick shout out. So typically when you make your confirmation calls, what time do you make those? Oh, usually just throughout the day. Okay, so this week for sure, and what I have found that is really helpful is you're either going to have morning patients or afternoon patients. Every morning they get up and they have that routine and they leave. They're going to the gym to work out, or they're running errands, and so they're not going to be there. And then they're going to be there in the afternoon, or you'll have the people who are there in the morning and not there in the afternoon. So let's do 10 o'clock confirmation calls, and then let's do a 3:30.
Do y'all ever say, also too, you can pay, if you want to take advantage of a $100 discount, you can pay in cash,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we're going to get into that in the closing aspect of it. But this is kind of just from a standpoint of setting it up for success right out the gate. Monday morning, I'm sitting down and I'm game planning, and I can also use that as a coaching tool of saying, hey, pull the files the night before so that next morning we can go over them and our opportunities. We're going to make sure everything's ordered. We're going to do all those things just to make sure that we are, again, we want to make this a machine in a way, but also a coaching tool as well. So that Monday morning is that religious revival where I'm pumping everyone up, but at the same time, I'm coaching them, hey, 10 and 3:30, don't leave a voicemail at this first one. Leave a voicemail at the 3:30 appointment. So it gives us an opportunity to call back. And then if they don't answer right before I leave, I'll call from my cell phone, different area code, different phone number, or same area code, but just a different phone number. And likelihood of me getting a hold of them just increases because now I took 3 shots. I might even text them. All right, I'm going to at least, in my mind, do everything I can to make sure that appointment is coming in tomorrow.
Do you have a percentage you put on that extra communication increase in business by getting together and having that time to talk about everything? Is it like 20% more productive? Because I'm guessing it must be.
Well, we don't have a percentage of that. I think that might be a little harder to gauge, but I think the biggest effect that it does is it creates cohesion and we're all on the same page.
I think it helps them stay with their energy level too. Like, for example, like if you had a bad day on a Monday and you had 2 cancels there, when we do our morning huddle or PCC, she knows to grab people from Tuesday and fill that slot so we have a full day and it keeps our energy level going through the week.
That sounds right.
Yep. So, and again, along those same lines, every morning I'm meeting with them and I'm saying, hey, we had those, 2 people cancel late last night. First thing, or this morning, we had 2 people cancel. Let's do this. Let's take from Friday and bring them forward. And those morning huddles are huge because we only have today, right? We only have this one day that we can maximize, and that's our goal, is to maximize this one day. And then we have more time to fill Friday. We still got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to fill Friday. So take from Friday, bring it forward. We got today only. Our goal is to maximize today. And the daily talks is kind of what we were talking about just in that morning. Hey, what we have going on. I'm trying to get intel from the PCC and the consultant, how this appointment was set. I'm looking at that. Was that outbound from a PCC? Was that created the last time they came in that you weren't able to upgrade them? And now I have the opportunity. So you set the appointment as the consultant. Now I can bring them in, right? Or was that a newspaper, direct mail? They got a trade in, trade up letter. How was that appointment created? All right, what can I find out about it? But also daily talks. Hey, how's the day going? Where are we at? What's going on? And then at the end of the day, Aaron's like, hey, I'm talking to you about those appointments as far as what we're doing and adjusting. So in the morning, throughout the day, where we're at, how to approach the next day, what we know about them, and taking notes, that's all going to help with return to cancel. So a lot of this we are going to go over multiple times in just different ways. So I'm going to hand this over to Aaron for the scheduling, and we'll just keep rolling on.
All right, guys. What Jared just did was give us a nice synopsis of what we're going to cover the whole week, and then we're going to go into a lot more details. So real quickly, I want to kind of talk about scheduling. Okay. Sorry, good job. So one of the key things that hurts an open house is flow. When you go to an open house and you have test, and then a cleaning check, and then an aftercare appointment, and then you have random tests coming in, if you don't have the schedule set up properly, it's gonna fail. It's gonna cause turmoil in the office and mixed feelings. So the week of the open house needs to be completely clear. We want to schedule appointments every hour on the hour. I'm gonna go ahead and.
Do you want the pen or do you want whiteboard pen?
You want to go to that next one?
I want to go to the next slide. There you go. So we clear the schedule the week before. We want to have an open availability to start scheduling appointments. Every hour on the hour is first priority. We want to get Monday through Wednesday booked every hour on the hour. 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever you just agree on with the store, so that you're full, nice and clean. You go to Tuesday, fill up that next schedule every hour on the hour. You want to hold off on scheduling Thursday and Friday. You want to cram everything in the front of the week at the beginning. Here's why. As on average, the Friday before the event, on average, as in our system, we have 31 appointments scheduled for the following week, on average, which leaves 10 more appointments at least that we're going to pick up throughout the week. But if we have Thursday and Friday full, and then marketing hits late, and all of a sudden you got an influx of calls, now you have a 3 or 4 appointment day on Monday, but nowhere to put the new appointments. So you want to get Monday through Wednesday full first. Once you have that full, then you can look at potentially even double booking. If you have a second office, double booking. You can see here on the schedule that we have, it isn't every hour on the hour for the double, because you do need to give yourself a little breathing room. If you're every hour on the double, it gets overwhelming. You have too many appointments. I've been in events where we have 18 to 20 appointments a day. In the week, I did 100,000. I've had appointments where, or events where I did 18 appointments the whole week and did 100,000. Too much, then you're getting diminishing return. So it's important that you have it set up as clean as possible. Personally, the way I present it to the offices is I would rather come in at 8 and work till 8 and have a lot of time with each patient than try and go every hour on the half. It's just too much, it's too overwhelming. You don't have the time to make the connections. You don't have the time to get solid foundation. So then you have more returns, more cancels. So the week before, or excuse me, the week of, you're clearing the schedule. But then you have your deliveries to make. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the following week should also be cleared. So you need to make sure that you're calling the office and saying, please leave us room for deliveries. We know that if you don't deliver right away, higher likelihood of cancel. So you walk into an office and you see Monday, the following week, has 34 cleaning checks. Well, how are we going to deliver with all that on the schedule? So we want to make sure a month in advance we're calling the offices and saying, hey, not only are we want to get this week scheduled, but the week after also needs to be capable to handle the deliveries. Some of our offices.
Well, I was going to say, as soon as the schedule comes out for the open house, I'm having my PCC clearing that week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's done months in advance.
Yeah, the sooner you can run, the better.
Yep.
Yeah, some maybe we can do as closers as we're in those offices working with the PCCs and let them know that.
Yep.
This, just.
Yeah, we want to call the office the week before or the month before and make sure they understand the game plan. Some offices, they want to work on Saturday. I did an event with Jared when I was a provider in Nampa. We did $180,000 that week. I delivered 15 of those patients on Saturday. The amazing part of that was Monday, because of marketing overflow, I sold another 3 or 4 sets. And then Tuesday I rolled in, I was already back to doing aftercare. By Friday the following week, I was doing first follow-up appointment on the open house sales. And I didn't skip a beat. We ended up doing I think two some overall with the combined marketing. So setting yourself up for success isn't just a week of, it's also the follow-up care and planning for the future. So that's super important. A lot of offices don't understand that. So as a closer, you need to call and make sure it's organized, make sure it's ready, make sure it's capable. The other thing that happens is, how do I handle curveballs? What do we do when you walk into to an office on Monday and the first 4 appointments no-show, and then COVID outbreak in the community, 700 new cases last night. Everybody freaks out and calls in and says, hey, I'm not coming out and leaving my house. What's the plan? How do you overcome that? One of the things that Jared pointed out, taking care of the PCC or the FOA, whatever you guys call it, taking care of them is vital. One of the things I'll do is I'll stop and buy coffee on the way in, or buy them a treat, or buy them lunch, or throw them. I had last week, I had the PCC in that office. She had a blowout on the way to work, and she called all frantic. And she called the consultant. The consultant called me and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know she's not going to be here on time, and so we got to kind of plan for that." I said, "All right." Got in my car, went and found her on the side of the road, put her spare on for her, drove her to Big O Tire, which is 3 doors down from our office, got her set up for new tires because her husband's out of town, relieved all her worries. We went to work, and then we gave her a ride back to get her car at lunch. And she's like, all right. So I'm out there, dressed for an open house, changing a spare tire at 8:30 in the morning. And we got our first deal at 9 o'clock, we sold them anyway. The energy level of taking care of your people is, you can't measure that. So the better you take care of the PCC, the better results you'll have. Another hugely important thing when it comes to that, they're scared. They're scared of failure. Often you'll come into an office and they'll say, I only have 4 appointments scheduled. I'm so sorry I let you down. I wanted to fill this event for you. It's important that you have the ability to put their mind at ease. Hey, I only need 4. Tell you what, I'm going to get 5 of the 4 appointments today. And then they kind of laugh. And then you make it a point to maximize those 4 appointments. And you say, see, it doesn't matter what you put in front of me. I'm going to make the best of it. We're a team. Don't worry about it. I know you'll get the other days full. That boosts their energy levels. And then they're making more phone calls. They're excited. They know that you're going to capitalize on their efforts. And they're energized. If you come in and you're like, we only have 4 appointments. All right. So tomorrow, since our first one's at noon, I'll be in at about 11:45. Bye. Or I'm going to go get lunch. I'll be back in 2 hours. The energy level of the office is very, very important, and the PCC is what controls that. So the more comfortable they are, and the more controlled they are with what's going on up front, the happier they are, and that's going to set the pace for the rest of the event. When it comes to in-between appointments, when you have time down, I go up and hang out. Tell me about your kids. Spencer's PCC, she left the company. We're friends on Facebook still, and she has horses and her kids are riding the rodeo, and she was amazing. A lot of the time I spent was up there hanging out with her. And what that does is you create chemistry, not only between you and the closer, but between you and the PCC. So the PCC is super, super vital to filling the schedule. Okay. Then the next time you go, like Curtis said, I believe it was, they're going to make it a point to fill the schedule for you. They're going to work harder for you. So that's important. So the way the marketing comes in, and the way the appointments fill, when Jared and I first started, Jared started doing open houses about 1.5 to 2 years before I started. And then I came on, but at the beginning, it was me, you, and Steve Olson. We were the 3 closers, and we were trying to figure out how to better this program. So every night after work, we were on the phone with each other. Hey, this worked, try this. Okay, this worked, try this. This didn't work. That communication was huge and vital, but one of the most important take-backs from that was back then we'd go into an event with Monday full. Tuesday, 2 or 3 appointments, and that's it. So you get in the office, you close Mondays, and you didn't worry about Wednesday yet because marketing would trickle in. And then that one would fill. And then that one would fill. And then you end up with a great event. Even though going into the event, you only had 10 appointments that Friday. We've gotten better with our telemarketing and with our marketing systems, so we're getting more full weeks. But that doesn't mean every week's going to be that way. You're going to have events where you go in and you have 10 appointments on the schedule, and you're like, uh-oh. Walking into the office with the right energy will make or break that event. I did an event in McMinnville about a month and a half ago. I think I saw a total of 13 patients the whole week. I closed 12 of them. Right. And I think of those 13 patients I saw, I think only like 5 or 6 of them were on the schedule going into the week. If I'd have gone in there bummed out, we wouldn't have gotten what we did. So not every schedule is going to be full. And what I tell the PCC on the first day is this, plain and simple. In order for us to have a successful event, we need to do $125,000. Okay? In order to do $125,000, I have to get 4 sales a day. If you guarantee me to get 4 good leads a day, I guarantee you a good event. I would rather have 4 good leads than 25 garbage leads and spend the whole day kind of weeding through the grass. So your commitment to me is to give me that, and my commitment to you is to maximize it, and we'll both make a lot more money. So I have those conversations with the PCC. They get excited, they take the stress off, and because they're not as stressed, they have a lot more fun. And when they have more fun, guess what? They book more appointments. Our patients can hear the negativity through the phone. Okay? They can hear that vibe if we're not careful. So they need to be in a positive mood.
So what do you do at the end of the week whenever you've kind of built that up to, hey, in order to have a successful event, we have to have 125,000. Mm-hmm. And as you know, that's not going to happen every time. Mm-hmm. So you kind of set that standard. This is what's successful. So what do you say to the team when you end up having a $50,000 week? Because at that point, they're going, okay, I needed 125, I only hit 50, but I tried really hard. So what do you say?
I shout out the successes. I say, look what we did. Look what we did, guys. We targeted for this. You reach for the moon, you're going to hit the stars. You reach for the stars, you're going to hit the sky. You set up this number of appointments, and this is the results we got, and that's fantastic. Think about what we can do next time when we get more appointments. It's a numbers game. Sometimes marketing hits better than others. Sometimes patients are afraid of COVID. Sometimes there's issues. It's how we handle it that matters, not what happens, is how we handle it that matters.
So that 125 goal is set for every open house, whether it's a smaller demographic so that's our goal. That's what we're trying to hit every time. So you're just saying, yep. That way you're excluding any excuses like, hey, there's only 3,000 people in this town. It's always 125.
It's always 125.
Okay.
When I went into Reese's store, the conversation I had with his PCC was 200. We're going to hit 200 this week.
And a lot of it is also coaching opportunities too, right? And so if they didn't work ahead of time, if you look and you see all of those appointments were created from marketing, you can have that conversation with them as well and say, all of these were inbound phone calls. So that just tells us that we didn't really make that concerted effort ahead of time. If you are worried about only bringing in the best opportunities, then some consultants will weed through and they won't create those appointments because they will say, oh, well, I'll just close them myself. And then sometimes they'll be like, well, I'm going to give you all my difficult ones. And then they're giving you these really, really difficult ones.
Right, so they're manipulating the schedule.
Yeah, and so it's, letting them ahead of time know that, and at the end of the week, if it's a 50,000, say, you know, these are some fantastic things we did, and this is a part of the leadership and management stuff, is giving them kind of that compliment sandwich is what we call, say, hey, here's the great things that happen, and here's the things that we can learn from, you know, and these are the coaching ways that I can give you advice on going forward that you can work as a consultant and as a PCC 2 or 3 months ahead of time or a month and a half ahead of time. If you see patients that have 4-year-old hearing aids, just put them in the open house and say, you know, I got an expert, I have, you know, a specialist that's going to be here. I'm going to have them take a look at your hearing aids and see how we can get you hearing even better. And make it, because sometimes people do get that, if they've been to multiple open houses, they will get that, oh, I've already seen that factory specialist, don't want to do that again. And so we have to kind of change up the dialogue. And that's kind of where we have to continue to change and adjust. And so that's where a lot of times with current patients, I'm giving the consultant and the PCC the verbiage to go into it and say, this next open house, I'll see you again, but let's start on it right now. You know, every patient that you see from this point until the next open house, if their hearing aids are over 2.5, 3 years old, and you think that, hey, that's opportunity, get them into the open house. And put them in on Thursdays and Fridays, because again, the marketing is supposed to be focused towards the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but having that conversation with them, and then again, leaving them on a high note, not beating them down like you suck.
Sure.
Approaching the wins.
One of the main things too is downtime is an opportunity time. I tell all the offices, the PCC and the consultant, the success of the event isn't this week. It's how you do the next several weeks. So when there is downtime and the schedule isn't full, the conversation is, look at all this time we have to train. Let's get some training done. So I'll sit down and go over marketing list to call. I'll sit down and do difficult patients with a consultant. You capitalize on every minute. You pick up the phone with them and make phone calls. Hey, I got an appointment. High five. You know, you're creating that energy in between appointments, and they realize that it isn't all about the money. It's about the patient. It's about the event. It's about the environment. It's about the quality of the office. And we're not just there to capitalize and make money. We're there to grow their business. And so you have events where you only see 10 people all week. Do you have any idea how much in-depth training you can do in that much time? I mean, you can handle difficult patients. You can help them overcome return cancels that have been looming in the back of their mind. Oh, this person wants to cancel. Bring them in. I'll talk to them. Let me see what I can do to help. You save the deal for them so that that's less stress on their shoulders. The PCC, they're up there trying to figure out, okay, how do I input this in the cycle? Well, let me show you. You sit down and you show them. You teach them. So the training time during downtime is another way for them to say, okay, we didn't hit the goal, but look at all the training we got. So no matter what happens, you spin it into a positive event.
Yeah, I just remember like one event we got a little bit downtime and I was struggling with live suit mapping, so I had you show me how it all, we're learning all that stuff, and then using that as a validation tool to help limit cancels and returns, which in fact helps you, helps me, both of us. So use that too to help limit the cancel and returns as well.
I try and make it a point to spend at least an hour or two a day teaching something. If it's the PCC, if it's a consultant. So during the downtime, in between patients, after hours, I try and put training time in every day. So when you have a schedule that fails, which happens, then you make it about how much training do we get done. Yeah, we didn't hit 124 this week or 125 this week, but you're going to do it next week because you just learned all this stuff. It's still a successful event. Let's roll forward.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, good question though.
I kind of, there's a good way I look at this that, you know, if you don't win the battle, you can win the war. You know, if you don't have a week that goes well for whatever reason it was, kind of like what Jerry was saying, if you can identify if there was something that went wrong, maybe nothing went wrong. Maybe it was just completely out of your control, the marketing didn't hit right, it was delayed by the post office. You never know, right? So at the end of the day, if you train, you do all these things, and if you can't identify what went wrong, what happens the next open house? You've figured it out. The PCC now knows to do X instead of Y. We fix marketing, we do this, we do that. So at the end of the day, the next 3 open houses, we've won the war for that year because those events blow up because we've identified what was wrong. And if you leave them in a good mindset, the weeks after the open house, part of the reason we do this, as we discussed earlier, is not just to hit the numbers that week, it's to get the PCC and the consultant pumped up so that what happens the next few weeks, they've got a great mindset, they've just made a ton of money, maybe not as much as they wanted this week, but then the marketing hits, and now they've got 12 HAEs the next week. We're not there, but we've left them in a mindset that they still get those HAEs.
Sure.
In March of 2020, I did an event in Bellevue with Nate. Was it 33 people in the senior center down the street from you, or wherever it was? Like they had a record number of deaths in one area down the street, and the whole city was like collapsing because of COVID. And we ended up doing like 37,000. It was a really, really weak event. We did like 20 the next week and like 30 the week after that, and you ended up still having a good month.
Yeah, as a consultant, if you add value to me, it's a success. If I come away with some tools to help myself, then I'm not worried about the low numbers. If it's someone that has the door closed and is like, all right, see you later, sorry you didn't do good, it's kind of like, well, I didn't really get much from that. So.
Food announcement, y'all are hungry. There are snacks over there on that table. So if you guys want to casually walk out, if you're hungry, and grab a giant breakfast burrito.
I'll be wrapped up here in about 5 minutes, so then we'll do snacks. So perfect. Okay. Another thing that I do with the PCCs when it comes to scheduling is I set game plans on what appointments to look for. We don't want people who have gotten 3 applications from Miracle Clear Foundation and have been denied on every financing case possible, and they just love that gift card. We don't want those patients showing up, okay? We don't want those things. One of the things that I do that goes maybe a little bit too far sometimes, I know I upset Steve on one of these at an event, but sometimes I'll have a frank conversation with the patient. I'll tell the patient, hey, we do these events not to sell hearing aids, not to give away gift cards. We do these events to change people's lives. When you're ready to have your life changed, come on in. Until then, don't waste your time or ours. So have a nice day. And I'll kick them out of the office because they're a habitual offender. Sometimes that bites me. Sometimes they go, I am serious. Okay, we'll sit down. Let's have a conversation. And then you sell them hearing aids. But sometimes it's okay to have those tough conversations. I have a strong belief this actually kind of ties in with my faith, but there's a quote that says that the field is all white ready to harvest, which means when you go out to harvest a crop, you're only collecting the ripe fruit. You're not collecting the stuff that isn't ready yet. Not every patient's ready for hearing aids. Not every patient is ready for the conversation. Not everything that hits your schedule is going to be a fit, and that's okay. Earlier I said 31 is your average starting point. 31 to 32 appointments is your average starting point. You're going to have 4 or 5 no-shows. You're going to have 3 or 4 gift card people. I'd say a large percentage of those are going to be garbage appointments. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you can't capitalize on the tough ones. When it comes to your schedule, there are patients that are going to come in, they're just going to lay down and say, give it to me. Okay? There's going to be other patients who come in and they're going to be a little bit tougher, but you know what? A consultant could have handled that by themselves. That's not our job to close those. We have to close those. But the ones that are hard, we have to close 100% of those. The ones that are impossible, we have to close 25% of those. In order to set the right mindset for the office, we need to show them that the impossible doesn't exist. You're not going to get them all, but you need to get some of them. That's what differentiates a middle closer, a bottom closer, or a top closer. I had this realization myself. I've done pretty well in sales, in hearing aids. Jared, he does a lot better. He's incredible. And I had a conversation with Steve about this, because when Steve and I were both closing with him, there was the 3 of us. I said, what is it about Jared besides his amazing good looks that causes him to close more than me? You know, he's 6 foot something and I'm 2 foot something. But why is he so good? Is it because he's so handsome? What's the reason? And Steve and I came to the conclusion. He closes the impossible ones. And I don't. That's that extra percentage. So I made it a point to change my mindset. When a patient comes in and says, hey, you know, this isn't going to happen, I say, hold my beer. I'm LDS, so I don't drink, so I say, hold my Monster. But my point is you have to have that mindset. So when it comes to filling a schedule, and you see a schedule that's weak, all right, game on, let's do this. I'm still going to have success in spite of that. And you breathe that fire into the PCC, and they'll start filling your schedule because of it. The other thing I do is when I close it, and I'll talk more about this on Friday, or on tomorrow actually, when I close a patient, I'll walk up front to the PCC and I'll hand them everything nicely different. Patient, have all the notes in cycle. Patient's already been approved for financing. I've already input the payment in cycle. All you have to do is file it. And they're like, really? Yeah, I got you. Don't worry, I got your back. And if I need to do anything for me, I will. I work extra hard to make their life easy. And then I tell them, your life is going to be very hard the next week or two. So it's my job to make it as easy as possible for you this week, because I know you're going to take care of me. Now they're wanting to die for you. They're wanting to work extra hard for you. So the better you treat them, the better your schedule is going to be. So big takeaway is the PCC is golden. If you don't have a strong PCC, then coach them.
Something basic that I like on this schedule we've got pulled up here. Even if you don't go into sometimes we go into the week and every day's full. That's obviously what we want, right? And then we can go backfill and start adding these appointments in. There are some more advanced things that you can teach PCCs that, and excuse me if you were going to go over this, but let's just take this example up here. Let's say either the whole week is filled or we're filled up to Wednesday. And we have appointments that we all know are tough ones at the get-go, right? Like, we've had someone that's no-showed 4 times. What did I teach Keisha a few times I was ago? I said, hey, if we have someone that no-shows constantly, and they've called in still, and how many times do they show up and buy? I mean, it can happen, right? So I'll tell them, hey, even if we're not full Thursday, Friday, I want you to put them at appointment 10. Because if they don't show, well, what happened? I've still got a 9 and a 10. I'm still happy. Everybody's happy. We're still going about our flow. Or someone maybe came in 2 months ago. And again, this is more advanced stuff you can teach BCCs or the consultants. They come in and they say, hey, they didn't get approved 2 months ago. So I'm going to do some more things too. I'm going to put them in kind of like I did this other patient where I've got a shot in the dark, right? And then I'm going to call the patient beforehand and say, hey, I look forward to meeting you and so, because maybe last time they came in without their spouse or a friend or a family member, I can bring them in, educate them in very little time, and get the third party aboard, and guess what? And say, hey, let's try to get you co-signed with your third party. There's a lot of these scenarios, right, where we can fill, and then we have all Thursday, Friday still for the newspaper to hit or extra marketing or to make more calls. So take advantage of these. Even if you have a single office, you can do some of these appointments in 10 to 20 minutes, right? Because they've already been educated. You're just bringing them in, building a rapport. They're hearing it for the second time. And I don't want to get too advanced on this, but does that make sense? It's about training your PCC to do these things, though, and it leaves you way more opportunity the rest of the week because you're not wasting that time if they don't show or whatever.
Another one is husband and wife. It's
Side by side.
doing that side by side instead of 1 hour for husband and 1 hour for wife.
Mr. Mace and Mr. Mace and Mrs. Mace.
Put them
That's
right
going to
next
waste
to
2
each
hours of your day.
Yeah.
Do Mr. Mace and Mrs. Mace.
Or right next to each other for couples.
Yeah.
And then if they don't show, you're only at an hour, not 2.
Yep.
I mean, worst case scenario.
And a lot of time with couples, it's going to be a situation where the husband needs it and the wife's just nagging him and she's getting tested just to pacify him, and they end up both having a loss. You can get them both. But you can focus on one, get one, and then go to the other. We'll talk more about this later. But if you have that scenario, you can sacrifice one to get the other in a quick hurry. The other thing you can do is set them both up with demos and have them come back later in the afternoon and see them down here. So I use the 6 o'clock on hour for situations like that. So I leave the evenings and I have that conversation with closers. I go back to the hotel. I don't care. So if you want to book me, great. If I'm licensed in your state, you can go home, just leave me a key. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. I got you. I'll tell consultants, if you're not doing well, if you have to, and this is one of the human elements that's hard to teach. But when you have a blowout on your tire doing stuff like that, that's going to pay in dividends. I did an event with Spencer. Spencer is one of the hardest working consultants we have in our company. He would not miss a day for anything. He was in his deathbed essentially for a whole week while I was doing an event. And he tried to come in and I said, no, go home. I got this. I did a whole event up till Friday or Thursday or Friday with him sick in bed. And we still ended up doing 115 that week. But doing the extra thing for the consultant, showing them that, we're human too. It's okay. We can cover you. Going out of your way to find ways to make things like that work in a schedule are huge. So if a PCC has a doctor's appointment that she just couldn't get rescheduled at the end of the day, let them go. You can handle it.
I was just going to ask, so when we had the past events, we always like to call them Panera Bread sandwiches, just have them on site. Specialists seem to really enjoy that because they put it off their mind because they want to have something to eat, for crying out loud, even if there's a bite in between. And then we make sure we clean the place like meticulously. But then is there other things y'all can share with us on how we could prep our location, like banners to hang or any other things we could do internally on just the premise of the office to make it more responsive when they come in?
So we have treat boxes that we send out to all of our events.
Okay.
They're like snacks. We used to have like cookies and donuts and stuff in the lobby. Right next to the Eugene office, we have a Mexican restaurant. And I do like me some chips and salsa. I'd go next door and buy chips and salsa every day. We have it set up in there with plates, but we can't do that anymore in a lot of states. So we went to sealed packaging. So we do those. So we do treats in that nature. Some offices, you don't want balloons and banners and things. Some offices, one of the things that we found is there are offices that respond really well to events, and then there are offices who avoid events. Some of the rural markets, sometimes they don't want to talk to a factory specialist. They want to talk to the local provider. So if it's too much balloons and too much going on, they feel like they're at a car lot. So it's actually case by case. So
Okay, and so that little package y'all talk about, is that something we can purchase or something?
Carolyn, who just stepped in and told us about the snacks, she coordinates all that, so we can get you the information on that. But they're basically snack boxes, and it's actually a pretty good deal.
I mean, we do Cokes and Pepsis and water and all that stuff because it's hot,
But it's so much of the event atmosphere comes from emotion. It's less about banners and balloons. It's about the feeling in the office, and we can create that without banners and balloons. I find that the more banners and balloons there are, the less genuine it feels, personally. Some people like a lot of it.
It doesn't matter. We've done it with and without, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't affect it.
It doesn't affect the sales.
Okay,
It's all. So to me, it's just a waste of money. We stopped doing that a while ago.
I think the biggest thing is just cleanliness.
Yep.
They come into your office, it's a medical facility to me. And so I step back, just talking about basics. You probably do the same thing. You step back when you get there, right? And you look at the PCC desk, you look at the closing office, you look at the other office. If you walk past the lab when you're going if your patients walk past the lab, either make sure the door's shut or make sure it's very clean, right? They don't want to walk past the lab and see Jimmy John's bags and domes laying everywhere, and it needs to be clean and yeah, exactly. But also, the restroom.
Yeah.
Do you want to do business somewhere with a disgustingly gross bathroom? These little things, right? I think that stuff matters way more than a patient walking in and seeing a banner saying "open house cell" or God forbid it says "cell" or something like that.
So do you go into the conversation about the foundation with that third person that's been there 3 times and wasted your time? And then reschedule them like 2 weeks out, 10 days later?
The way I personally handle foundation patients is I give them my heart and soul just like I give every patient.
Well, we already know they didn't qualify, so that's the purpose right there.
So we go right into it and say, look, we've given you foundation packets several times. What's stopping you from doing this?
Oh, I see, okay. Because if they walk out, it's kind of hard to send someone on their way, but it's kind of better to nip it in the bud if they're going to sit there and melt down with negative energy.
Well, it's an objection. There's still an objection. Is it the $150? Is it what is the cause? So you still have to overcome the objection. So we'll talk about more in objections. But I'll ask them. We've given you, and I'll read their history to them. This is your 5th time in. We've given you 3 packets for Miracle Foundation.
Yeah.
You've never been able to approve. Why do you not fill out the application? What's stopping you from getting that done? Often it's the $150.
I would say it's also the PCC setting that appointment. They didn't even know that stuff. And this is where training your PCC on being intelligent about creating appointments. If I'm the consultant, and again, consultants in this room and your consultants in your organization need to look at that stuff. Because sometimes PCCs, their mind is not in the right spot. They got other things going on. So she's the first stopgap. I'm the second, right, as the consultant. I'm looking at the appointments too, being like, hey, let's cut that down to 15 appointments, or let's call them up and say, hey, Janet, do you still have that packet that I gave you?
Mm-hmm.
There's no need in coming in because we're just going to tell you to fill out that packet, get that 150, and then come in. But if you're the consultant, you're the stopgap on that, right? You should look at your schedule, read the notes, see who's coming in. And if you see there's 5 appointments that are coming in, which happens every now and then, and they're all still financing their hearing aids, what are you doing, right? And that's where we need to, again, look at the appointments and say, hey, how can I have a conversation with them? How can I adjust this? And it happens if you're the open house person, just like Aaron said, is you're still going to pour your heart out to them. But if I'm the consultant, my job is to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. But I'll catch those before they're tested, before they go to those things, and just nip it in the bud, like you said, and get it done to save time for a patient who is ready.
So last week we were at an event, me and my wife, and this one person was the last one on the schedule, and the FOA said, we've had her 4 times, she never shows. What do you do with that? I mean, you don't want to, disqualify, but her thing is she's got some issues in transportation.
So,
pick her up.
It's real simple. You make a phone call and you go pick her up.
That's
legitimately.
interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
You pack up your laptop and your
iPad doesn't offer that, even though it's not
You pack up your laptop and your younger, you drive to her house and do it there.
Hey, Janet, how far away are you? Okay, the Uber's going to be there in 2 minutes.
We'll arrange a return trip too.
And the other thing
There's
is,
no answer.
too, if you go into a week, McMinnville Aaron was talking about, and you have 13 appointment schedule, that PCC is probably working on getting anybody she can in, or her, him. And the thing is that, we were talking about the foundation patient. We're going to be talking about some objection things tomorrow, things like that. If I mentioned this earlier, if I see a foundation patient and I've only got 12 people that week, what this is part of critical thinking, in my opinion. I'm going to be like, I don't want 12 appointments, I want 13. Yeah. And so before they even get there, I'm going to call them, and I'm going to discuss, you've been in twice, you've had a foundation, and see, no one's ever come with you. Do you have like a family member or a spouse or a really close friend that might be willing to help you get even, better than the foundation hearing aids?
We've sold previous foundation patients because back in the day they used to not have to get approved for financing. Now they're supposed to be turned down from our financing company, and you'll see people who had foundation hearing aids 5 years ago are now approved for financing, or maybe their financial situations changed where now they're on state housing, low income housing, and they have an extra $100 a month where we can get them some ME2s.
Is that two? They have to be turned down twice?
No, just whatever financing
options you have to offer.
I mean, another thing I do for scheduling wise is recently I had a lady not show up 8 times, and so I put her on right at 4:30. So worst case scenario, she doesn't show up, I'm done early for the day. Other scenario is I sold her this last time, and I had to stay until 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. It was worth the sale.
So here's the other side of it too. We've done this countless times, like Curtis is saying. Bring in a family member, and we'll get this done for you. Well, guess what? You sell the family member.
And this is the type of appointment I'd be putting on the half-hour slots. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we have L&I patients, which is called labor and industry, where Washington, for instance, they have state aid where they give them very basic tech, right? They pay for basic technology. It's the same thing as a foundation to me. If I see that and I've only got 12 appointments, I'm going to take that L&I and I'm going to say, hey, not to get too in-depth, we'll talk about this more probably later, but you're hearing like this, we can do this, and I demo them better technology. They've got a pocket. How many times have you guys sold L&Is? My point to this, and even if I have 40 or 50 appointments, if I have that foundation person and I see it, and they've been in 3 times, they've been told the same thing, I'll still spend 10, 15 minutes with them. Mm-hmm. If I can spend 10, 15 minutes with them, convince their third, and I'm going to try to do extra things, right? Like I said, get third party, etc. If they don't buy, what happened? They still know that we're nice, we took care of them, we educated them. Now, and then there's sometimes where they leave, and they didn't bring a third party, and then like a week later, I see a sell from that name on there because they were educated again, we were nice to them, they found someone to co-sign, right? these are all perfect case scenarios, right? It's not like it happens every time. But I'd rather see them than not.
At the end of the day, the schedule being full is a bonus. It's the patients that are in front of us that matter. And so you can sell to third parties, you can get referrals. Earlier, someone mentioned, so why do the 5-day instead of the 3-day? Why is it better? Fridays are my most lucrative days, statistically. I do really well on Fridays, and it's often because of feedbacks from earlier in the week, or it's from somebody I sold on Monday, they brought their friend in on Friday. They've already purchased hearing aids, they've already heard our presentation, they already know how much hearing aids cost, they went home and told a friend all about it, you gotta get a pair of these. They come in, it's literally build rapport, which option would you like?
Especially if they get them for free, right? Who's more likely to tell their friends, like, gosh, these guys did an awesome job, they care about me, and I got free hearing aids? You should go
I'm not
check
even
them out.
talking about foundation, I'm talking about patients earlier in the week that bought their hearing aids,
Right.
bring in a referral at the end of the week. So Friday is a day for you, if it's light on Friday, that's a bonus, that's VBACs, those are great things. One of the tricks that I do on the schedule is, let's say patient number 1 got denied on financing, but they have a family member they're gonna talk to who lives in Nebraska that's gonna pay for the hearing aids for them, right? Well, I'll put a little schedule block off to the side and I'll put a note on it. So on Wednesday, I'll see schedule block, I'll go in and say, what was that? Oh, that's right, the referral. Pick up the phone and call them. Okay, you got that done? All right, let's get you in on Friday, let's get this done. So I'll leave myself little notes of schedule blocks for patients I want to follow up later. So if I miss somebody, I'll have a schedule block I can follow up on. There's a lot of little tricks you can use with the schedule to improve your efficiency. So at the end of the day, though, my point is if you don't have a full schedule, that means nothing. And one of my favorite games that we play between us, and you heard us earlier say we're super competitive, is I'll get a phone call sometimes from Steve or from Jared or from Curtis, and they'll say, I see you only have 2 appointments on your schedule today. I'm like, yeah. He goes, and they go, how many are you going to close? I'm going to close 3 of them. He goes, I thought you could get 4. All right, game on. One time he went into an appointment, into an open house, and I believe you weren't feeling well. You were kind of having a tough week. Friday had like 1 appointment on it, and you called me and you were down. Jared's like, man, this is hard. I'm not having success. I'm thinking about coming home and just letting the consultant have that appointment. I go, Jared, you can get 4 out of that day. And so I forgot where it was. So he goes in on that Friday, and he sold 4 sets of hearing aids off of 1 appointment. And he picked up the phone, made some phone calls, got some feedbacks. He called Test Loss No Sales from the previous event that he was there, said, hey, last time I was in town, you said you were close, but what's it going to take? Come on in, let's get you taken care of. He ended up having a fantastic day on 1 appointment. So an empty schedule means nothing. That's the point, okay? Now, an overfull schedule can actually be counterproductive. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So you want to make sure and find the balance, okay? Any questions on anything we talked about? A lot of the stuff that we're going to continue to cover throughout the week is going to be a refresher and a lot of overlapping, but please continue to ask questions. One of the things I was talking to Reese, I was doing an event with him 2 weeks ago. He goes, what are you guys going to teach? And I said, we have a good idea of an outline, but the truth is how do you teach what we do? How do you teach? There is no script. We don't have a set thing that we do every time. We're not scripted people. We don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. All we are is we're going on an objection journey. We're going to get objections and see what's next. All right, what's next? What's the next objection? How are we going to overcome that? We're constantly on a problem-solving journey, and we're not scripted. The more you realize that, the better you're going to do. So when you have a bad schedule, awesome. Let me do well in spite of that. When you have a fantastic schedule, all right, let's get in the record books this week. You call and get them excited. What can we do? There's always options. The last thing is marketing list. How many of the consultants do you think know how to use a marketing list properly? I hate to say this, but very few. I mean, even within this group, I'm pretty sure that I don't know the marketing list as well as some of you guys. So one of the trainings that I do is I go through all the marketing lists. Insurance patients, Test Loss No Sales. What marketing list can you pull? What can you be creative on? How can you do those things? All of those things, the better we are at that, the better we can teach them on, and the better we'll fill our schedule. So get good at it is what it comes down to. Cool. Let's go have some snacks. Great time.
So let's it's 11 right now, so let's just say 10 minute break.
Quarter after.
Yeah.